online continually course of TrapSpot 2020, which is held by American Association of Petroleum Geologists, Universitas Padjadjaran Student Chapter. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lois Pasaribu, as the Master of Ceremony of today's activity, online continually course TrapSpot 2020, with the theme of geological properties of unconventional resource shells. TrapSpot 2020 is sponsored by PetroChina, Chevron, Pertamina Hulu Semenggaris, and Medco INP Semenggaris. And also thank you to our media partners, Radio Unpad Mahasiswa Unpad, Geologipedia, Event Mahasiswa 8, Bandung Event, eventbandung.id, Geologinet, and Event Campus. I am honored to welcome our invited guest, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Geological Engineering Universitas Padjadjaran, Mr. Dr. Science Yoga Andriana Sanjaya, ST, MSc, lecturers from the Faculty of Geological Engineering Universitas Padjadjaran, and also the alumni of AAPG Unpad Student Chapter. Thank you so much for your participation. On this beautiful day, we will have a lecture from Mr. Fatri Al-Bahesti as an explorationist at Pertamina EP. On behalf of AAPG Unpad Student Chapter, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Fatri Al-Bahesti for willingly to share his knowledge to all of us today. So for this activity, we will have 2 sessions. On the first one, we will learn about the topic, which is geological properties of unconventional resource shells from Mr. Fatri Al-Bahesti for about 45 minutes. And on the second one, we will have a discussion about the topic that we learned before for about 45 minutes. Now, I will read the rules during the course for today. So for all the participants, please listen carefully. First, participants are required to use a Zoom username with real name, not a nickname. Second, participants are required to turn off the video and make sure you are muted during the presentation from the speaker. Third, for participants who want to ask questions, you can only ask in the Q&A session. You can raise your hand first and I will call your name, and you can deliver your question straightly to the speaker. But you must ask the MC's permission before you speak, and don't forget to introduce yourself. Fourth, during the Q&A session, participants who want to ask questions are encouraged to turn on the camera. And if you are turning on the camera, you are encouraged to use the background zoom during the meeting. But if the participants cannot use the background, our committees are not burdensome. 6, participants are required to complete the attendance list provided by the committee after the event is over to get the e-certificate. Before we start our activity, it's better for us to have a pray first. Pray begin. Pray finish. Before we start our lecture, we will hear an opening speech from our Vice Dean of Faculty of Geological Engineering, Universitas Padjadjaran, President of AAPG Unpad Student Chapter, and Project Officer of TrapSpot 2020. The first one, we will have the opening speech from Vice Dean of Faculty of Geological Engineering, Universitas Padjadjaran, Mr. Dr. Science Yoga Andriana Sanjaya, ST, MSc. The time is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Thank you for all participants and especially for Mr. Fatri Al-Bahesti for giving a lecture on this TrapSpot 2020. First of all, I would like to say hi to all of my students. It's been quite a long time. We didn't see each other because we only see maybe through our computers or even our gadgets. But hopefully everyone is okay, everyone is fine, and everyone is still healthy, and keep the spirit, because I know that this is hard times, but still with your effort trying to make this TrapSpot 2020 still going on behalf of the AAPG of Universitas Padjadjaran Student Chapter. And today I am on behalf of the Dean, Dr. Vijaya, she cannot join, and also the caretaker of Universitas Padjadjaran AAPG, that is Professor Eddie. Also, he has another agenda. So I am proudly to present the TrapSpot 2020 that is going to be held for several days. And I hope everyone is, just keep going on. And I know it's quite hard, but today they just asked me, I don't know, maybe 2 days ago, they just asked me, sir, can you give an opening speech? Okay, so this is online, and I hope everybody still joins this program. Again, I would like to thank my hearty appreciation for Mr. Fatrial Bahesti in the middle of this pandemic, still, and his busyness at Pertamina EP. He's still willing to give a lecture about unconventional shale prospect in Indonesia. So without further ado, maybe I won't speak too much. Again, I would like to hope that everything goes well, everything pay attention until this TrapSpot ends, maybe on the 7th, if I'm not mistaken. And then I don't know about the field trip. I don't know whether it's going to be held or not. I'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully, even though there is a field trip or not, I hope everyone is in good condition. Maybe that's all from me. Again, wishing all the good luck to all participants, and also would like to thank the committee of APG Student Chapter and also TrapSpot 2020. Have a good agenda, have a good seminar, and also have a good, hopefully everything goes well. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much to Mr. Yoga for the welcoming speech. For the next one, we have the second opening speech from the president of AAPG Unpad Student Chapter, Mr. Ahmad Yuski Maulana. The time is yours.
Thank you, Luis. My voice are clear, Luis? Can you hear my voice?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you.
To Honorable Mr. Yoga Andriana Sanjaya as the Vice Dean of Faculty of Geological Engineering, Padjadjaran University, and our Honorable Mr. Fatrial Bahesti as the speaker for today's event, and to our Honorable all invited guests from alumni and lecturers. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to each and every one of you for gathered here virtually at this beautiful day. My name is Ahmad Yuski Maulana, and I'm speaking here as the president of APG Unpad Student Chapter 2020. And it is such an honor for me to speak on behalf of the organizer. Let me begin by giving my sincere appreciation to the TrapSpot committee for their best hard work and consistency so that we can execute this event besides all the challenge and obstacles on the way, especially with the technicalities that we have to run virtually. Before we get started, let me deliver to you my warmest welcome to our biggest annual event of APG Unpad Student Chapter, TrapSpot 2020. Begun in 2012 and still continues to enliven the academic spirit of geoscience students until this day. In today's first main event of TrapSpot 2020, online continually course with the topic of geological properties of unconventional shale resources, which will be delivered by Mr. Fatrial Bahesti as an explorationist at Pertamina EP. We will broaden our horizon about unconventional shale resources. Before we get any further, I want to express my biggest gratitude to Mr. Fatrial Bahesti for willingly sharing some of the knowledge to us. Unconventional resource is one of the future of oil and gas industry in Indonesia in order to meet the energy needs of our country. Indonesia is currently in the initial stage of developing unconventional potential, especially in mature fields. A more comprehensive knowledge on this topic is a major provision for geoscientists who will later continue the struggle of exploration in Indonesia. So I hope this series of events can open up our insight and enlighten our understanding of unconventional shale resources. I could already see a big potential from the participants coming from various institutions and every element of geoscience major. So to all the participants, gather as many information as possible and do not hesitate to bring up an interesting discussion on the Q&A session. I think that's all from me. Thank you. Please enjoy the event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much to Mr. Yuski for the welcoming speech. And now we will have the third opening speech from Project Officer of TrapSpot 2020, Mr. Benedictus Beryl. The time is yours.
Good afternoon to Mr. Yoga S, Vice Dean of the Faculty of Geological Engineering UNPAD. Good afternoon to Mr. Yuski S, President of APG UNPAD Student Chapter. Good afternoon to Mr. Fatrial Bayesti, who has been willing to fill this event as speaker. And good afternoon to all the sponsors who have supported this event. My name is Benedictus. As Project Officer of TrapSpot, I would like to thank those who have support the continuation of this TrapSpot event. Hopefully with this online continually course can add insight about geological properties of unconventional resources shells and support national seminars events later. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for Mr. Benedictus for the opening speech. So first, I will read the CV of Mr. Fatrial Bayesti as a keynote speaker for today's activity. So Mr. Fatrial Bayesti was a regional exploration geologist at Pertamina EP from May 2012 until December 2013. And on September 2007 until June 2012, he was the exploration geologist, geoscientist at Pertamina. And from May 2005 to August 2007, he was the exploration geologist at Vale Indonesia or PT Inco. And from March 2005 to May 2005, he was the Batu Raja Block PSC. And on the same year, he was the development geologist at Petroleum Geoscience Study Center or PGSC and geologist at PT LAPI ITB. Now we are going straight to our main event. The first session is going to start. We will learn about the topic of geological properties of unconventional resource shells. So to Mr. Fatrial Bayesti, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Luis Pasaribu. Good afternoon for all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. My honor to Dean of UNPAD Geology of UNPAD, Pak Yoga. Thank you for.
Sama-sama, Mas.
Sorry. Selamat sore, Pak. Saya terima kasih ya untuk undangan dari UNPAD, khususnya untuk tim APG. I will deliver the presentation in Indonesia because this is the Sumpah Pemuda, right? We love the Indonesian. But if there is a question from another country in English, I will try to answer. Oke. Hari ini saya cukup senang karena teman-teman sangat antusias ya dalam kondisi pandemi maupun long weekend ya. In long weekend Indonesia, I think this time for enjoy the holiday, right? But today I salute you all to present the webinar in APG TrapSpot. Yeah. I don't know exactly TrapSpot, but I'm a APG member when I was a student in ITB. There is a session in weekly session in ITB from APG, so they are active student. I think APG is very good for you all to involve and make and organize the session in order to fulfill your knowledge in geology, especially. Geology, I think, is a good geological science is a good good science, yeah, for us when we think that now there's another science that disrupt in our geoscience. There's a digital, ada bermacam-macam. Sekarang ya kita harus bisa berkolaborasi lah dengan ilmu kita sendiri. Ya, salah satunya ini unkonvensional. Jadi kalau dulu di kuliah kita berpikirnya biasa-biasa, sekarang dalam kondisi yang semakin sulit, mungkin kita akan butuh sesuatu yang di luar kebiasaan kita. Salah satunya ini unkonvensional. Saya belajar unkonvensional ini dari banyak orang sebenarnya. Di Pertamina sendiri baru tahun 2009 mungkin 2008 saya ikut kursus unkonvensional shale gas. Waktu itu ditugaskan 1 minggu untuk kursus di Houston. Di waktu itu kita sempat melihat langsung lapangan shale gas di sana. Kira-kira 2-3 jam dari Houston itu ada Barnett, ada Marcellus dan sebagainya. Dan kita melihat langsung operasionalnya di lapangan waktu itu. Kita tahu harga minyak waktu itu ya cukup tinggi ya. Coba next slide. Oke. Nanti saya bahas. Tapi sebelum ini, tadi ini sudah ya, next slide. Nah, sebelum kita ke materi, saya terbiasa untuk memberikan next. Saya memberikan HSE moment ya. Kalau di kita di Pertamina, previous slide, sorry. Belum berubah. Ya kalau kita di Pertamina itu ada, sebelum kita memulai sesuatu itu ada HSE moment. Di sini saya coba sampaikan bagaimana kita mengelola stres ya. Ini 2 slide saja sebentar 5 menit. Bagaimana kita bisa aware terhadap HSE. Salah satunya di sini saya coba gambarkan stress control. Jadi di dalam otak kita ya, di dalam otak manusia ya, kita punya yang namanya amigdala. Kalau sudah pernah dengar mungkin apa itu amigdala, yaitu satu set bentuk otak. Di dalam otak itu ada satu set sebesar almond gitu ya bentuknya. Dia berada di tengah-tengah otak kita. Ini yang mengontrol seluruh kegiatan otak, emosi dan sebagainya. Dan fungsi amigdala kita ini adalah cukup penting karena bagaimana kita bisa survive ya. Kalau geologis di lapangan, kalau dalam kondisi tersesat di hutan, itu kan harus survive ya. Nah, amigdala inilah yang berfungsi memikirkan bagaimana kita bisa hidup di tengah hutan sana misalnya. Ya, jadi dia sangat-sangat penting bagi kita dalam berpikir. Nah, juga dia bisa menyimpan memori baik memori yang manis maupun yang pahit ya. Ada semua nih di amigdala untuk kondisi otak kita yang normal ya. Ya, nauzubillah kalau dikasih sakit ya mungkin akan terganggu. Jadi kalau kita punya otak yang normal, ya kita pasti menggunakan ini amigdala. Nah, kapan amigdala itu di hijack ya, dibajak itu ketika kita tidak menggunakan amigdala ini sebagaimana mestinya. Jadi kalau melihat alur otak kita itu, begitu ada rangsangan dari luar, diproses di talamus, kemudian diproses lagi di korteks, di otak belakang, terus baru ke amigdala. Tapi dalam kondisi yang tiba-tiba mendadak gitu ya, kadang ini dibajak nih. Jadi talamus tidak diproses di korteks, langsung ke amigdala. Dan ini sangat bisa fatal kalau tidak rangsangan yang kita terima itu tidak diproses di talamus, di korteks, langsung ke amigdala. Jadinya kita akan bertindak shortcut ya, bertindak shortcut. Jadi kita akan memotong seluruh proses dalam suatu pengambilan keputusan misalnya. Kita memotong proses itu dan akhirnya terjadi penyesalan nantinya. Nah, coba next slide. Belum berubah. Nah, ya. Nah, bagaimana cara kita menghindari pembajakan amigdala? Nah, salah satu ya tiga hal ini yang perlu kita lakukan. Pertama, kita mengenali diri kita sendiri, ya. Ketika emosi kita begitu meledak-ledak, gitu ya, kita coba mengenali diri kita sendiri. Kemudian sebutkan, ya, kita sebutkan, wah, aku ini sedang emosi, misalnya, ya, aku sedang emosi. Kita mark, kita mention emosi kita yang kita rasakan. Nah, terus kita cek detak jantung kita, kemudian cek lagi bagian-bagian tubuh lainnya, gitu ya. How to stop amygdala hijack? First, recognize yourself when you are under emotion, and then mention that what you feel, and use the 6-second rule. What is that? First, we have to calculate the 6 seconds in ourselves. Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and stop. Okay, let's think clearly. Okay, it is the time which the chemical reaction in our brain causes amygdala hijack will disappear. Yeah, use the 6-second rule. The famous amygdala hijack in the world, we know when the Zidane lost his career when he capped the French, and then Madman, Tyson and Evander Holyfield, and then when the Bill Clinton scandal, yeah, we know this is some example of amygdala hijack. Okay, what is the impact of our health when the amygdala hijack? Our brain neurotransmitter will reduce stress, which help create the balance inflammatory and anti-inflammatory cytoxin. Cytoxin is very useful to our brain. When our amygdala hijack, our brain will not produce cytoxin. This is the research from Miller in 2009. So it is decreased in the GABA, decrease the cytoxin in GABA, and followed by decrease of hormone cytoxin. And this is very dangerous when we do the shortcut in our life. We have a emotion. We have we bother by other person, other people, and then we don't use the cortex and another part of our brain is direct to amygdala is very dangerous. Okay, this is 5 minutes for HSA moment. Let's start the course. Next. Next slide. Going very slow. Okay, this is the highlight of my presentation. Sorry. Can you back to previous slide? Yeah, this is my highlights in presentation. First, we will see the oil and gas industry overview. What is the VUCA and energy transition? I will recognize this first before we explain another topics. This is very important. How to make the unconventional real growth in our area and our country, right? And then I will explain a little bit more about the the methods for unconventional shale characterization, the challenge in the future, and the most important thing is the hydraulic fracturing. Hydraulic fracturing will answer all of the unconventional shale, how it will be produced in the field, right? And the conclusion. Next slide. Next. Can you see? Okay. The oil price, we know the oil price going to negative in this year, and then this is the challenge for geoscientists when we got the oil price negative. So what next for us? Yeah, for the world production now today is 97 million barrel oil per day. Now excess. Yeah, we have the excess of oil about 30 million barrel oil per day. This is more supply, but the demand is lower than last year. So this is the impact of what we call the VUCA, yeah, volatility. Yeah, we don't know when the oil price will going higher and higher. We don't know. No one know, I think. And then the complexity and ambiguity, we deal with the VUCA right now. And yesterday, I heard that there is a news. The ExxonMobil will reduce the workers. This is 15% globally. Yeah, 50%. That, and I think we are in a difficult condition right now. So what we think if we are in the difficult condition. Next. Yeah, what we have to do. Yeah, for me, yeah, there is a skill that we have. Okay, previous slide. Sorry, can you back to previous slide? Okay. Reza, can you back to the previous slide? Okay, next. Yeah. For us as a student, I think we have to have this skill in our next career in oil and gas, in other other condition, in other industry. I think this is the skill that we have to learn. The first is leadership, communication and negotiation, critical thinking, advanced IT, creativity, project management. This is the basic skill that you have to develop rather than the technical skill, right? We are, you are the millennial. For me, I'm the senior millennial maybe. Yeah, you are, some of you maybe the Gen X, yeah, born between, Gen Z, born between 1995 to 2015. Next. We know that the infestation, reserve, and production in the world is fluctuative. The investment in oil and gas, we see that this the peak is when 2013 and 2014, and then lower in until 2019 until now. I think in 2020, yeah, we have a lower investment in oil and gas. How about the reserve? The reserve is follow the investment, right? The reserve also lower than last 10 years ago. The production, let's see the production. The US shale, yeah, contribute to global production in the world. Yeah, this is what we learned today. The US shale gas, right here, US shale gas. It contribute yeah, around 10 or 20% of the world production. This is when the sorry, this is the production in the red line, and then the cash flow. Yeah, we see that when the cash flow, the minimum, yeah, we see that the capex also lower, and yeah, we don't. This is the data from 2019. In 2020, here maybe it is decline. Okay, next. This is the world oil reserve. We know that there is 3 major frontier exploration program focus in the world. There is the Carbonate Reservoir, dominantly maybe here in Saudi Arabia, and another country, and a continental margin in the North America and Russian, and onshore convergence system. Yeah, this is Indonesia, one of them, onshore convergence system. The yet to find is about 30%. The reserve yet to find now. Yeah, I got the data from BP Statistical Review of World Energy. This is the world oil reserve versus Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and where is Indonesia here? Indonesia is number 29. It's very limit reserve in Indonesia, but our consumption is very high. Yeah, this is our challenge right now. Okay, next. This is the 30 super basin in the world. You see that? The first is West Siberian, and yeah, in the Russian have the big oil reserve, big oil and gas reserve in the world because they have the super basin here. I don't know what is the exploration status here, but we know that this is one of the prolific basin. This is the Saudi Arabia, and in North America. In North America, we see some basin related to continental passive margin, I think, and in Africa also, in South America and Australia. We will see the focus on shale gas here in the basin, and especially in there is many study of shale gas in America. Okay, next. Next slide. Yeah. This is the conventional and unconventional reserve in the world. Yeah. The US shale gas reserve is about 600 TCF, and then the Russian have twice, and then Indonesia has this is the source from Artifact Pickers 2018, right? This is maybe prospective or speculative reserve. And Canada, also China, Argentina, Algeria have the shale gas reserve. But the shale gas reserve that has been developed maybe here in the US. China, yeah, also China start to develop their shale gas reserve. Yeah, Canada maybe dominantly they develop the tar sand. Yeah, but the most production is come from US. Next. Next slide. This is Indonesia shale gas and oil assessment. This is assess a basin in Indonesia that we know the study has been conducted in Central Sumatra, North Sumatra Basin, and South Sumatra. This is the tertiary basin here. We know the shale gas from tertiary basin is very young, but the maturity is low. But we will try. We will try to look the potential of shale gas reserve in the tertiary basin. But we also have the Mesozoic basin in the eastern part of Indonesia. Next. Yeah, this is the shale gas play in the US. There is many field in the US that has been produced. One of them is yeah, Barnett. Yeah, uh, I have visited the Barnett field and see the operation there. We need very massive drilling and fracturing for develop the shale plays in US. And also we see that the Marcellus, the biggest shale producer from US, contain the oil, yeah, oily, more oily than Hello.
Terus pasar.
Hello, there is no voice.
I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but the speaker may have disconnected. Please wait a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I have lost connection. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Clearly, sir.
Okay, so sorry. The connection is unstable. Okay, next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the Mesozoic and Cenozoic shale in the US. Yeah. Most of the shale is come from the the Mesozoic, yeah, the Mesozoic shell in Western Canada, Rocky, and Gulf Coast Basin. Yeah, Cretaceous. And one of shell is come from the Miocene, that's Monterey. Okay, let's see. Next slide. Yeah. What is the difference between the conventional and unconventional petroleum system? In conventional, we assess the 5 elements of petroleum system. The first source rock, migration route, reservoir, seal rock, and trap. And the process is hydrocarbon generation, migration, accumulation, and preservation. And now, we know the Magun and Dow has introduced the petroleum system, and especially in the Portland Basin, when we have the kitchen and where is the oil and gas window, and we deal with the reservoir and the carrier bed from the kitchen to the reservoir. But in the unconventional, we focus on the source rock, right? We focus on the source rock where the hydrocarbon is generated, where the hydrocarbon generated, but they are not accumulated in the other place, but the source rock and reservoir is in the same rocks. Yeah. You know, the conventional, when we have the conventional, we have the 5 elements, but maybe in unconventional, we only have the source rock and reservoir in the same layer, maybe. Right? You see here in this slide, we have the gas, source rock, shale, shale in the same layer. Okay, next. Yeah. We have to have the basic thinking of the shale, what we call the shale porosity. When we have a source rock, bitumen or the bitumen or kerogen, we have to see the micro porosity in the shale. This is the very important for the shale gas development. When we have the micro porosity in the shale, our chance to success is bigger than we have only the shale, only the organic material. Yeah, we don't have the micro porosity. The micro porosity in the shale is useful to reserve the gas, and when we do the hydraulic fracturing, it will connect with this micro porosity. So the fracturing is very important when we develop the shale. So we have to connect the micro porosity in shale. Okay, and then this is the mechanical properties of the shale. It will depend on mineralogy content, right? Mineralogy content is it contain iolite or smectite or another clay mineral, and porosity is most important, and the percentage of the kerogen. Sometimes we find the kerogen here, and also we have the porosity in kerogen. Next. Yeah, the mineralogy is important when we have the clay mineral that bound the water or not. When we have the smectite, we see that the chemical element of the smectite is contain the H2O. Yeah. decontaminate the water. And another clay mineral, not. So we have to careful with the smectite. As you see here, the smectite, right? The internal surface area of smectite is very big, so it bound the water. Then another clay mineral, external surface area of smectite is bigger. Surface area, yeah, biggest than another clay mineral. Next. Yeah. The kerogen and rock strength in shale. Yeah. When we have a kerogen, we have also have to assess the rock strength in the shale. We have a good organic content in the kerogen, yeah? But be careful because if we have sometimes if we have the high KOC, and then we have a lower rock strength. The kerogen and rock strength will give the reverse, yeah, reverse. When you have the high kerogen, it will give the lower rock strength. Yes. So next, yeah, the next unconventional thinking is shale reservoir, yeah, consists of many clay minerals, yeah, and organic matters is important. Almost of 90% shale is methane. Yeah. In the shale gas reservoir, the natural gas, we have the free gas, dissolved gas, and absorbed gas. 20 until 80% is content of absorbed gas. This is what we call the shale gas, absorbed gas, right? The free gas and dissolved gas maybe migrate to another place and into a reservoir, but the absorbed gas, this is what we explore in the shale gas. This is in the right side, in the unconventional and conventional. You see that in the unconventional, we have shale gas, gas hydrate, tight gas, right? Tight oil, but in unconventional, have a small portion, right? Small portion of the reservoir distribution maybe. In the unconventional, we have lower permeability than the conventional. Okay. Also, in the cost of to develop in unconventional, we need the higher cost to develop, and we need the technology requirement to develop the unconventional. Please note that unconventional has rock matrix with poor fluid flow path, yeah, very low permeability. Low permeability can cause the unconventional reservoir not to be able to produce, yeah, without any artificial stimulation. Yeah. Why? Because in unconventional, we need another artificial simulation method. Yeah, we also think the unconventional in the hydraulic fracturing. We cannot what we call we cannot use the fracturing for conventional to the unconventional. Okay, next. Yeah. I have a thesis in the shale gas in 2014 when I'm studying in university to get the master degree. Some methodological shale gas. The first in the blue one, we have the data. First, we have good data. Yeah, the available data is maybe from lab analysis, from well seismic. From the lab analysis, we have clay mineral content. What kind of the clay mineral, and then for petrography, XRD and SEM, we have we collect the data from the geochemical. We collect the TOC, rock eval, and filtered reflectance. From the well, we have electric log and mud log, and seismic. We have the seismic line and check stuff. This data we combine, right? We combine with the methods. What can we process for the data? We use Weng and Galley to produce the brittleness, and UCS Tropic6 to produce the UCS modulus yang kosong ratio, right? This is and then we do the calibration, pacing method to generate TOC from log, yeah, and then we calibrate the TOC from the lab analysis, and we do I did the correlation and interpretation, and the parameter of the shell, we got the brittleness, yeah, yang modulus, Poisson ratio, maturity, shell type, TOC, burial history also. So in the unconventional shell characterization, we have to do many things. Yeah, we have to. The key is we have to do many things. Yeah, we cannot do it by yourself. Yeah, we have to work together in assessing the shell unconventional hydrocarbon, right? And at the end, we have the brittleness and sensitivity map, and richness and maturity map, shell phase. Yes, we combine it to get the sweet spot mapping. This is what I have done in my thesis in 2004. Okay. Next. Yeah, this is the result of my my methods that I have done. The first is we got the TOC from logs. Yeah, we got some the data of TOC in the certain depth. Yeah, and we calibrate with the logs using the pacing methods. Yeah, can you see in this TOC modeling? Yeah, I use the resistivity and sonic logs to produce the TOC log. Yeah. This is one of methods when we have to get the full section of TOC, and then still in the geochemistry, we have to define the pot of active source rock in the kitchen. Yeah, we can see where is the deep area, where is the shallow area, and we define it to get the properties shell, the properties of shell in the deeper area and the shallower area, right? And I did the maturity modeling also. In maturity modeling, we got the kitchen good for generic hydrocarbon. Okay, in the geomechanics, we combine it. And the geomechanics, we have three minerals: smectite, chlorite, and kaulinite, halite, and we plot it in the ternary diagram, and we calibrate it with the petrography and SEM analysis. Next slide. Okay, this is the most important in the evaluation of shell unconventional shale gas. Yeah. The first one is a brittleness indicator. Yeah, some mineral have the good brittleness, and some is yeah not good. Yeah, bad So the brittleness index, we compare the fraction of quartz, feldspar, and plagioclase divided with the fraction of clays, calcite, dolomite, quartz, feldspar, plagioclase, yeah, and we calculate the brittleness index from the mineral, and also from the plotting Young modulus and Poisson ratio. We also have logs, right? The sonic logs. From the sonic logs, we can have the Poisson ratio and Young modulus. So we can define where is the low brittleness and where is the data that have the high brittleness index. We plot it in the graph, and we can define the red one is the higher, and medium is the yellow one, and the lower brittleness index is the green one. Okay, next. Yeah. Okay. We calibrate the calculation using the petrography and SEM analysis. If we see where the calcite develop, maybe we'll give the good brittleness, right? Where we find the calcite and quartz in the section in the well, and we see in the logs, oh, this will be brittle, more brittle than another layer. Yeah. When we have the calcite, yeah, maybe there's the dissolution will decrease porosity, right? But we deal with the source rock. We deal with the kerogen. We deal with the bitumen. The dissolution, yeah, we can see the dissolution in the kerogen, in the bitumen, but not significant when we see the dissolution in the carbonate, maybe. Yeah, we can also see the illite and dolomite, yeah, in the section, the spectrography and ECM analysis. Okay, right. Next slide. Yeah. From geochemical and geomechanics analysis, at the end we have to combine the correlation, to combine it with the basin analysis, right? To see where is the sweet spot. Okay. In this case, I divided the facies into three. Yeah, A, B, 3. The first facies is the high TOC, 2 until 5%. It categorized with the medium brittle. The facies B has a medium TOC, yeah, and the medium brittle, and the facies C lower TOC, but it gives the high brittleness index. Why? Yeah, we see that in the facies A, right? The facies A, we have a deeper section of the basin. In the deep section, it's possible to see the shell, to see the illite or haulinite develop, where we have the suspension load, right? Suspension sedimentation. But in the facies C, we deal with the margin of the basin, marginal area of the basin, where we can find the traction sedimentation, right? Rather than suspension. So when we have the facies C, it will give the high index, but unfortunately we got the low TOC. So where is the sweet spot in this area where We have the phase CSB is the optimum for the sweet spot, right? Yeah, maybe the brittleness index we have to have the 3D seismic maybe in the next step of my research. We will assess more using the 3D seismic data and using, yeah, maybe if we have the micro seismic, when we have the micro seismic, we can define better for the sweet spot. Yeah, for the sweet spot. Overall, we have to focus on the area with have the good TOC and good brittleness index. Okay, next. Next slide. Yeah, this is the 3D dimension image of my research. We have what I have said that this is the PCSA. There is no data in the northern area, and this is need more data from seismic maybe and wells. There's no well have been drilled yet in the northern area and in the deeper section. So we still have a good opportunity to see the area that have no data in the northern, and the basin fill age, what I call the facies B, is located in the marginal of the basin, and the facies C is in basin fill slope. We can, as a geologist, besides we have to understand the geochemistry and geomechanics, we also have to define where is our facies. Yeah. If we have the basin fill age or basin fill slope, it may be contain the high brittleness mineral like calcite or quartz. Yeah. But in the deeper section, we have less quartz. Yeah, we have less calcite in the deeper section. Next. Yeah. Last week I have attended the Ali Jafri shale gas reservoir seminar webinar. Yeah. He introduced the step by step how to approach the shale reservoir. Yeah, I think this is a good methods. Yeah, step by step. I have not do it yet because of my activity in the office, but I need to see this step by step, and I hope you all can do it in your area, in your research. Yeah, the first step is make sure to do. Yeah, I will share this another slide maybe. We need the integrated team here, yeah, to assess the shale reservoir. And the second, look for the proven source rock. Where is the proven source rock in our area, in our basin, right? And then step 3, apply and filter using multiple geochemical parameter, like what I said before. When I have some workflow, yeah, in the assessment of shale gas, the geochemical parameter is the important one. Step 4, find the right stress field orientation. We deal with the tectonics and map out the lineament on fractures. What I have learned from the shale gas in US, US shale gas have less fractures, yeah, less lineament and fractures. So it will give a good preservation for the shale gas. Why? Yeah, because if we have the fractures in the reservoir or in the source rock, it tend to expel. Yeah, it tend to expel the gas to another area, to another reservoir. So yeah, we don't need the more fractures in the shale reservoir. So the fractures we will conduct it artificially, yeah, not naturally fractures, yeah, because we need to generate the artificial fractures in the shale gas. Okay, step 5, use dementology, identify clay rich and clay poor interval. And step 6, use sequence stratigraphy. Like I have said before, is in the 3D arrangement, ductile and brittle facies. And step 7, drill 5 vertical pilot. Yeah, this is not conducted yet in Indonesia. It is very difficult to drill the vertical pilot. Yeah, in Pertamina Hulu Energy, I think there is Pak Murtala here. Yeah? Pak Murtala maybe can tell more about the pilot well here in the Pertamina. When we collect the data, yeah, from the pilot, we collect the shell core in the pilot well. And horizontal well, it's important when we assess the characteristic of the what we call the shell geomechanics. Yeah, we do the horizontal well to characterize the geomechanics of shell. And step 8, thing availability and disposal. This is the operation surface. Yeah, operational surface. Yeah, we need the water and sand in amount of in the big water and sand. When what I see in the US, they have a pond. They have the water pond like a lake. Yeah, like a lake. A very big water pond. When they when they operate when they frac the shell. Yeah, we have to have them. Okay, next. Okay. Not changed yet. Next. Okay. What we do in the geomechanics study and testing as a geologist, yeah, and yeah, we have to combine another science. Yeah, this is geophysics, petrophysics, reservoir engineering, drilling, rock physics, to conduct the geomechanics study in the shale gas. This is very important things. In the geomechanics testing, yeah, what we need, yeah, we need the triaxial testing, Breno hardness, tensile strength, fracture, fuse strength, yeah, ultrasonic velocity, propan embedment. So it involves many science in conducting the geomechanics study in shale gas. The mechanical properties of the rocks is vary, yeah, based on their composition, yeah, distribution, cohesive element, presence of crack, orientation, distribution, etc. Due to significant effect in situ condition, the mechanical properties of the rock, it's necessary to conduct the lab test. Yeah, lab test. We need the lab test here. Okay, next. Next slide, please. Yeah. At the end, we have to do the hydraulic fracturing operation. It involves the engineer here. We need the completion engineer to design the fracturing design, to do the fracturing in our operation. The most important is to design the horizontal fracturing, what we call the frac and plug. Yeah, frac and plug. After we frac the shell, we have to plug it, and then frac again and plug it, frac again and plug it, and we do the several stages of frac and plug, and then when we have to produce the gas from the shell, we just open the frac. Yeah, we just open the plug. Yeah, after we frac, so we just open the plug and then we produce it as a gas. This is the stage: first acid, and then PET stage, slurry, flash stage, flow back stage, and etc. Yeah. Also in the propan. Yeah, I visited the propan propan factory. Yeah, in US when I see the where the propan is researched. Yeah, in the US, in the Baker Hughes at the time, they have the sand and resin, and then intermediate strength, high strength. Yeah, they combine it to get the formula for the specific formula for yeah. When after the frac, they have to induce the propan. Yeah, have to inject the propan to maintain the frac, and have the lower oil price. Maybe it is not economist to did the project, and because the capex capital expenditure is very high in the shale gas. Yeah, until 60%. Yeah, the cost associated with hydraulic fracturing, and among the until 60% of the capex. Next. Next slide. Yeah, because we have to invest the capex. Next slide. Not changed yet. Okay. All right. This is the stage of assessment through the upstream. Yeah, we know that exploration is the first stage, and appraisal in the conventional. Yeah, in the conventional hydrocarbon exploration to production, we have the exploration stage, appraisal, development, production. But in the unconventional shale gas, sometimes we jump. Yeah, sometimes we jump from the exploration to production. Why? Yeah, you know, the capital expenditure in the shale gas very high. The investor have to get their money back. Yeah, their money back in the short term. So they have to shortcut the exploration and production in one years. Maybe in 1 years we can monetize the reserve of shale gas to get the money back. Yeah, because the investment is very high. It is the difference of the conventional and unconventional shale gas, the different states. Yeah, from exploration. In the conventional, we know the plan of development. We have to do the exploration status to future development of the field. But in the shale gas, when we frack, after we frack the shale, okay, just produce it, just produce it. I think this is to distinguish the conventional from unconventional. The capital expenditure and payout of time, payout time of the shell is maybe only 1 or 2 years, if they have developed, if we have developed it. Okay, next. Okay, this is what Pertamina have done to build their capabilities to know more about the shale. I'm fortunate to in the Pertamina have study the shale gas in the direct to in the US. And we did the shale gas visit at that time. And this one in the fracturing, they use the big fracturing unit. They call gorilla. They call gorilla for fracturing unit. When they did the fracturing job in the this is our team when visit the shale gas field in the US, and we have to try to learn about it, and we have unconventional shale gas exploration to production. Okay, next. Okay, that's all for my presentation today. If you have a question from my presentation, yes, please.
Okay, that's the end of the first session. Thank you so much to Mr. Fatrial Bahesti for the amazing lecture. Now let's continue to next session, which is the Q&A session. For the participants who want to ask a question, you can click raise hand first, and I will call your name, and then I will give you permission to unmute your audio and also turn on your video, so you can directly ask your question. But if you have any trouble with your microphone, that is acceptably fine. You can write down the question on the chat box and I will read it out. Is there any question from the participants?
Okay.
Oh, there's one from Mr. Adi Janwardi. To Mr. Adi Janwardi, please unmute your audio and turn on your video. And don't forget to introduce yourself first.
Okay, afternoon everyone. Afternoon, Mr. Fatrial. My name is Adi. I'm a master graduate from Reservoir Geophysics, University of Indonesia. I want to thank you for the interesting presentation today, sir. I want to ask about, can I use in bahasa? Is it okay? I use bahasa?
That's okay, that's okay.
Ya, mau nanya Pak, jadi dalam kita memahami unconventional resources ini, cabang-cabang ilmu apa di geoscience yang menjadi satu hal yang penting dalam kita memahami lebih dalam tentang unconventional resources ini. Terus yang kedua itu, dalam kita melakukan penelitian mengenai unconventional resources itu, kan kalau di Indonesia itu masih dalam tahap pembelajaran gitu, belum banyak data seperti misalnya seperti di USA gitu. Nah itu sekiranya data apa yang paling kita butuhkan dalam melakukan penelitian di unconventional resources ini, sedikitnya gitu. Misal kita nggak punya banyak data, cuma yang data yang pasti harus kita miliki dalam kita melakukan penelitian di unconventional resources ini. Itu aja sih Pak yang ingin saya tanyakan. Terima kasih.
Ya, langsung jawab ini.
Iya Pak, boleh langsung jawab.
Yeah, participant, we talk Indonesian, right? Okay. What is the discipline that you have to learn to study the shell? This is the question. Jadi untuk mempelajari shell gas ini memerlukan banyak sekali bidang keilmuan ya. Kita tahu shell sendiri itu kan secara geologi punya karakter khusus ya, tidak sama dengan yang selama ini kita pelajari ya. Mungkin dominan kita mempelajari shell dan berikut dengan mineralnya itu hanya terbatas, hanya sepintas ya. Ternyata tidak cukup, kita perlu melihat lebih detail. Contohnya tadi di apa yang saya kemukakan di awal adalah bagaimana berpikir secara unkonvensional itu ya, bagaimana berpikir secara unkonvensional dengan melihat shell, bahwa shell itu punya porosity gitu ya. Itu contohnya. Kalau shell punya porosity, otomatis membutuhkan cabang-cabang ilmu yang lain ya. Contohnya apa? Kalau shell punya porosity, ya kita harus frack dong ya, kita harus frack shell-nya agar bisa mengalirkan hidrokarbon. Nah, untuk fracturing butuh apa? Butuh geomechanics gitu. Nah, butuh cabang ilmu geomechanics. Nah, kemudian dalam melihat porosity di dalam shell itu sendiri, selama ini kita berbicara porosity, berbicara facies itu kan dari sisi teknologi kita melihatnya dengan pandangan geofisik itu mungkin masih terbatas di reservoir. Tetapi pengembangan ilmu geofisik untuk melihat porosity shell itu sendiri ya saat ini masih terbatas, dan itu yang tadi saya sebutkan mikroseismik ya. Dan microseismik ini sangat penting dilakukan di awal ya, untuk melihat jika nantinya shell kita itu punya porosity, ketika di frack itu akan lari kemana. Nah, itu contohnya. Jadi banyak ya cabang-cabang ilmu di luar geologi yang kita butuhkan. Ya, selain geofisik, ada geomechanics, kemudian untuk desain pengeborannya, nanti ada drilling, engineering, dan sebagainya. Tadi di slide sudah saya paparkan ya. Kira-kira untuk mensupport geomechanics itu butuh cabang ilmu apa saja, mungkin nanti bisa dilihat lagi di slide. Ya, itu salah satunya, geofisik, geokimia ya kan. Dari kita butuhkan lab untuk melihat konten dari organik karbonnya, melihat kematangan dari shell. Jadi kalau shell sudah terlalu matang, RO-nya sangat tinggi, ya juga tidak prospek nantinya. Ya yang kita lihat adalah RO yang misalnya di atas 1 misalnya. Nah, jadi cabang ilmu geokimia. Terus apa lagi ya? Rock physics misalnya. Rock physics ya. Untuk merunning petrophysics ya. Untuk running petrophysics tidak bisa dengan petrophysics konvensional kadang. Ya. Kenapa? Karena selama ini kita melihat saturation water misalnya. Saturation water di shell ya, untuk petrophysics yang sehari-hari melihat yang konvensional mungkin akan melihat shell itu isinya air semua ya. Kalau kita pakai hukum Archie ya, rumus Archie untuk shell, itu nggak akan kelihatan gas atau oilnya. tentunya kita butuh formula-formula khusus untuk unconventional cell ini. Tidak bisa dengan metode-metode petrofisik biasa. Jadi banyak multidisiplin yang kita butuhkan. Tetapi di multidisiplin itu sendiri akan lebih spesifik nantinya untuk melihat sel, karena karakter sel itu berbeda dengan reservoir yang kita pelajari selama ini. Kita pelajari reservoir menggunakan tool yang basic, yang untuk sel tidak bisa menggunakan tool ataupun formula petrofisik yang biasa. Jadi banyak keilmuan dan memang harus lagi ya. Resource, jawaban dari saya. For foreign participant, we have just explained that we need more. We need multidiscipline. Yeah. We need multidiscipline to assess the shale gas, but in a specific manner, yeah, we have to adjust our formula, our technology to assess the shale. For example, in the petrophysics, we need unconventional formula also. Yeah, as we know, in the shale we have the very high water saturation, but using RC method. But when we adjust it to see the gas and oil in the shale, we have to adjust the formula also. And also in the geomechanics, in geophysics, we need the more technology in the specific area, like a microseismic, geomechanics, and we need the rock rock mechanics to assess the Young modulus, Poisson ratio, and so on. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the answer.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. And there is another question on the chat box from Mr. Amjad Taher Aziz. The question is, how can we control on breakout of the shell during producing? Thank you.
What? Can you repeat?
The question is, how can we control on breakout of the shell during producing?
Oh, okay. The shell has the rock strength. Yeah, the shell has the rock strength, and we can assess the rock strength of shell using the laboratory analysis. In the lab, we can calculate the Young modulus, the Poisson ratio, when we frac the shell, we have to predict the breakout. We have to predict the borehole stability in our borehole. And I think shell is very consolidated sediment, right? The shell that we mean that the shell that has a good maturity. The shell that has good maturity also has a good consolidation, right? So when we drill the shell, it's very I think it is good. It is a solid rock. It has a solid rock. When we drill, it will give us small breakout. Ya, kecuali kita punya fracture. Ya, except if we have the fracture in shell. Nah, ini yang saya katakan tadi. Kenapa di US itu mereka sebenarnya mencari shell itu, ya, shell yang mereka cari itu bukan shell yang banyak fracture-nya. Jadi kenapa kalau kita banyak shell banyak fracture-nya itu akan gampang sekali breakout. ketika di frac juga tidak maksimal karena ya secara pressure sudah break ya, sudah break duluan dengan adanya fracture. Jadi gasnya juga mungkin sudah keluar dari sel kalau terlalu banyak fracture. Jadi sel yang kita cari adalah yang stable, tidak terlalu banyak naturally fracture-nya. Ya, oke. We look for the shell that has a small fracture, small naturally fractures. Yeah, because it's important to produce it from the stable shell. Yeah, we just need the artificial fracturing to produce the gas from shell. Oke, mungkin itu jawaban saya.
Thank you for the question and the answer. Is there any question from the participant? You can just raise your hand and I will call your name. Or if you have any trouble with your microphone, you can just write it on the chat box. And I will read the question. Is there any question?
There is Pak Murtala here, right? From PHE. Maybe he can give the opinion to the cell. Pak Murtala. I see Pak Murtala here. Maybe he can give the success story. He can give success story in cell coring in the North Sumatra maybe. Pak Murtala.
Okay, Mr. Fatrial, good presentation for our shell gas. Maybe I think the one wells and pilot in North Sumatra Basin. I want to ask to you about the facies A, B, and facies C. What do you think if we get the facies E high TOC and we get the facies C a low TOC and good brittleness index, but the facies A high TOC and not good brittleness index? How do you choose that? How do you choose one to the production and facies E or C?
Yeah. Difficult question. Difficult question. Yeah. For reservoir, the sweet spot, it came from the high TOC and high brittleness. Yeah, but it's difficult to find the ideal condition like this in the shell. Sometimes we have a good TOC, but balance, I think, when we have the good TOC. The rule is brittleness index. We hope that the TN maybe in the tight sand, we will choose the brittle reservoir in the tight sand that we can call the sweet spot in tight sand. But in the shale gas, we also consider we have also to consider the shale organic content, shale organic content in our shale. And I think from the phases A, B, C, I will choose B or C. Yeah, B or C. Because for TOC, yeah, TOC is not too bad in the B and C. But when we choose the A, we don't have the good brittle, so it's difficult to crack. Yeah, this is some example from tertiary basin. But when we talk about the Mesozoic sediment, it will be different. In the US, they choose the mature shell. Yeah, they choose the mature shell to frack it. In mature shell in the US, we also know about the phosphatic mineral. The phosphatic ya, fosfat ya. Kalau pernah dengar fosfat, jadi kalau di Indonesia ini jarang sekali kita melihat shell yang isinya ada fosfatnya. Padahal fosfat itulah yang dicari di US. Ya, shell dengan kandungan fosfat tinggi itu organiknya juga tinggi. Dan di sini jarang, saya belum nemu shell yang punya kandungan fosfat yang tinggi. So the shell that has the phosphatic mineral, the higher phosphatic mineral, it will give a good TOC and also good brittleness index. Ya, mungkin itu kira-kira pendapat saya seperti itu, Pak Mutala.
Terima kasih Pak Fatrial. Saya pikir mungkin ya itu ya salah satu problem ke depannya kita bisa menemukan salah satu zona yang memang TOC-nya tinggi, tapi brittleness index-nya jelek gitu. Kayak di formasi luar bawah kan brittleness index itu bagus, tapi TOC-nya jelek. Kemudian di Blue Mai kita temukan tuh bahwa TOC-nya bagus, tapi brittleness index jelek gitu. Itu ya mungkin salah satu yang jadi ini juga ya, apa namanya, pada saat kita memilih zona prospek itu ya dua-duanya sebenarnya yang harus kita pilih bahwa memang di mana sih TOC yang bagus dan brittleness index yang bagus gitu.
Ya, betul. Jadi ada mungkin karakter khusus di shell di Indonesia ini kita belum nemu aja nih. Kalau kita ketemu shell dengan karakter khusus, ya mungkin itu akan lebih prospek. Contohnya mungkin di brown shell di Central Sumatera itu kan belum dieksplor dengan baik ya. Mungkin Bampo adanya di tengah-tengah cekungan sana yang bagusnya. Terus ada shell di Southeast Sumatera itu shell Vanuatu ya. Vanuatu itu juga bagus untuk dipelajari lebih lengkap ya, lebih lanjut sih. Karena saya melihat kalau di US itu ternyata ada karakter itu tadi, ada fosfatik itu yang mereka cari sebenarnya. Dan di kita itu mineral apa yang mencirikan shell khusus yang baik, yang sweet spot itu ya belum ada itu. Penciri khusus di shell di kita yang memberikan TOC tinggi dan brittleness yang tinggi. Mungkin itu challenge ke depan sih. Kalau teman-teman di kampus mau belajar jauh tentang shell ini menarik sekali menurut saya. Ya, selama kita masih mencari migas ini ya kita nggak tahu ke depan ini migas ini apa masih tetap menjadi dominan, karena dengar-dengar juga di 2030 energi mix kita kan sudah mungkin migasnya tinggal 30-50% saja ini. Tapi ya masih digunakan lah minimal untuk bukan kebutuhan transportasi, barangkali untuk petrochemical ya. Untuk petrochemical mungkin dominannya nanti akan ke arah sana. Penggunaan gas mungkin akan dominan dibandingkan minyak, barangkali ke arah sana. Mungkin itu tanggapan dari saya.
Makasih Mas Fatrial, sukses selalu, sehat ya Mas.
Sama-sama, sehat selalu Mas.
Thank you so much for the question and the answer. Is there any question from the participants? You can just click raise hand. Okay, so there's a question from Mr. Ebb. The question is, how about shale reservoir prospect at East Kalimantan? Thanks.
Ya, kalau untuk East Kalimantan, saya belum pelajari khusus ya tentang East Kalimantan, shale-nya seperti apa. Tapi kalau saya lihat tipenya tipe deltaic, ya, tipe deltaic itu sebenarnya cocok nih dengan konsep pengembangan shale di US, ya, karena mereka yang mereka cari di sana adalah shale yang berada di daerah Pacific Margin, ya. Untuk karakter shale-nya cocok, tapi lebih kepada kita harus melihat juga kematangan shale-nya. Apakah shale-nya cukup matang atau tidak? Karena untuk shale yang umurnya tertiary belum banyak nih yang terbukti. Ya, untuk Kalimantan Timur dari sisi karakter shale-nya oke, tapi dari sisi kematangan nih harus dilihat lagi. Kira-kira shale yang matang itu ada di kedalaman berapa? Nanti perlu kita cek juga tuh RO-nya berapa. Karena kalau shale-nya masih terlalu muda, ya di frack pun dia nggak akan nyerap air ya mungkin ya. Kalau ya mungkin terlalu banyak mineral shale-nya berupa menyerap air. Ya mungkin bisa dicek juga nih kandungan smegmatic-nya sedikit sekali. Nah, kemudian matang itu shale yang mature itu adalah shale yang mungkin dari kandungan airnya juga dominan, yang terproduksi di dalam shale itu adalah gas yang tertrap ya di soft gas, seperti yang saya cerita tadi ya, yang dominannya adalah di soft gas yang belum keluar, bukan free gas dan bukan free gas atau di soft gas, tapi yang absorb gasnya ya yang kita cari. Itu karena umurnya tertiary saya belum terlalu yakin sih. Kecuali kita bermain-main area tertiary mungkin yang umurnya Eosen, Paleosen yang masih tua ya. Tertiary yang masih tua. Mungkin bisa dilihat juga itu. Yang shale umurnya Eosen atau Paleosen. Gitu sih, Mbak.
Thank you for the answer. Is there any question? Is there any question from the participants? You can just raise hand. Okay, there's a question from Mr. Amjad Tahir Aziz. The question is, what are the most important risks arising from exploitation of shale gas?
What
are the most important risk arising from exploitation of shale gas?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the risk is the risk one is the successfully fracturing, yeah, the hydraulic fracturing, geomechanics, especially geomechanics. In the conventional, we assess the source rock, we assess the reservoir, migration, traps, and seal. But in unconventional, the risk may be at maybe plus the geomechanics of shale. Yeah, how the character of shale when it frack. Yeah, this is the most important. This is the risk when we have the shale with good TOC and etc. But it is worth it to frack. Yeah, this is the risk. I think this is from the exploration. But when we exploit the shale, the risk is came from the subsurface and the surface. Yeah, in the subsurface, we deal with the mechanics, as I said before. But in the surface, the challenge is the need of the water and the good proppant to frack. Yeah. When we have the good shale reservoir, we also have to design the surface condition, what we call the water pond. We have to provide the water in the huge water to frack the shale. And another risk is the drilling cost. Yeah, drilling cost is also the risk when we develop when we exploit the shale. We in the US, they need only 2 or 3 days to drill the shale, and then the rig move to another area, and the borehole will be fracked with another unit in the maybe in the 3 or 5 days they frack and they frack the shale and the plug frack and plug stage. The drilling cost is the challenge in exploit the shale. For another risk, maybe the economics. We have to see the gas and oil price. Gas and oil price. This is the risk to develop shale. When we have the lower oil price or gas price, our project is not economic. It's difficult to develop. The gas production cost in US maybe around 40 or 50 dollars per barrel. The production cost. And we know that if our oil price is lower than 50, it's not economics. This is the risk but this risk is under control. We cannot control the oil price. We cannot control the gas price. And what we have to do is we can see the potential shale in our country, in our area, and then just we can inventory. We can inventory the area, and then when sometime the oil price is higher, we have already have the shale potential, and we already to develop the shale. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, time for Q&A is up. We're going to the next session. Now we will symbolize a certificate to Mr. Fatrial Bahesti as the speaker of the first meeting of online continually course TrepSpot 2020. It will be given by Mr. Benedictus Beryl as a project officer of TrepSpot 2020. So Mr. Benedictus, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Luis. Thank you to Mr. Fatrial Bahesti for the amazing materials. I represent of all the TrepSpot committee and want to give a symbolic certificate because I have filled this course with a very good and useful materials for all who have attended to this course. Thank you, Mr. Fatrial.
Ya, terima kasih. Thank you. Thank you for attend the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Mr. Fatrial Bahesti and Mr. Benedictus. For the participants, I already sent the link of the attendance form that you should fill on the chat box. So don't forget to fill it out and give us feedback. And before we end this activity, we will have the photo session first. To all of the participants, please turn on the video and use the virtual background. On my command,
sebelum berakhir.
Ya.
Oh, sudah ditutup ya?
No, just.
Oh, oke, lanjut. Oke.
Is there anything you want to say, Mr. Fatria?
Yeah, I would like to say thank you for all to attend this meeting. I appreciate. Sorry for the inconvenience. I'm here outside of my home, so jadi saya mohon maaf kalau ada kata-kata yang kurang berkenan. Jadi sorry tadi agak terputus-putus ya. The bad connection today. I'm sorry for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Fatrial. We're going to take a photo session on my command because there are how many slides? Okay, so there are four slides. So please get ready. On my command, I will count to 3 from the first slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. I would like to say thank you so much to Mr. Fatrial Bahesti for the amazing lecture. And also thank you to all the participants who have joined the first meeting of the online continually course TrapSpot 2020. Now we are on the very end of today's event. On behalf of the organizing committees, I would like to apologize for any kind of mistakes throughout today's event. I hope this first meeting of online continually course TrapSpot 2020 will expand your knowledge about geological properties of unconventional resource shells. And also thank you to our sponsors, PetroChina, Chevron, Pertamina Hulu Semenggaris, and Medco INP Semenggaris. And also thank you to our media partners, Radio Mahasiswa 4, Geologipedia, Event Mahasiswa 8, Bandung Event, eventbandung.id, GeologiNet, and Event Campus. See you on the next event of TrapSpot 2020. Thank you and have a nice day.